It starts with the script, obviously, and scripts I find extremely, I mean, the format of a script I think is really horrible. Like, I hate scripts because they have nothing to do with the film.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean,
Amen.
it's something that we must have because, yeah, I mean, that kind of gives us an idea what the film should be, but sometimes it's nowhere near what the director has in mind.
Exactly.
And it's a problem. I really find it as a problem. So when I read the script, I look at it and I think it's like, okay, sure, this is a script, but let me talk to the director. And then basically what I do is I compile a list of questions, a lot of questions. Like every single thing that is in the script that is not super clear as an idea, like what is this scene, what is the purpose of this scene? You read the scene and it's a 4-page dialogue and it's about how much they love each other. A guy and a girl talks about how much they love each other. And it's a 4-page long dialogue, and you read it and then it's too long and it doesn't make any sense. And then basically I will ask the director, so what is the purpose of this dialogue? What are we learning from it? And what is the intention? Like what is the impact that this scene should have on the audience? And then he can tell me, well, don't worry about the dialogue. Basically, although the scene is about them talking about how much they love each other, this is actually her saying goodbye. Mm-hmm. This is the end of their relationship. And it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. So basically, I know how I will want to shoot this, because it's not a close-up of him and a close-up of her. It's suddenly she's dominating the scene. So I know that, okay, if it's a script that is written like that, if it's not clear from the script, then I will obviously have to ask these questions. And then I will know, then I will understand the intention of the scene.
Have you had any situations where you or the director, maybe like you reading the script, you don't you don't quite get something, right? But you feel intuitively that there is something here that needs to be explored, right? That needs to be explored, and you're absolutely sure that you need, say, a scene, right? Or you need like something going on there, but you're not like quite sure what it is. And like, what do you do then? Do you just like keep on talking to the director until you find out?
My first job as a DP to start working with a director is kind of establish a language. Like what is the best way to communicate with this person? Because some directors, they don't want to communicate. Some other directors love communicating. And then you have to figure out how to communicate with that person. And I will have to give you a little anecdote. And this comes from the film Son of Saul, the ending, the last scene of Son of Saul. Basically, I read the scene and I don't really remember now what the scene was in the script, but I felt that I totally understand the intention of the director. And the more we talked about it, the more I felt that I get it. And I felt more and more that the scene itself is not really gonna achieve what the intention was. So I kept talking about this, and I kept talking about it for weeks. And we kept on trying to come up with ideas, which I obviously couldn't come up with a solution. And all the conversation kept on getting tenser and tenser. And I felt that, okay, this is not going really well. And basically, and I'm not kidding, basically we talked about that last scene for 2 months on and off. And after a point, I felt that, we're getting very close to the first day of our shoot. We have so many things to decide, and we just keep coming back to this scene. We did made some little changes, and I felt that it's not perfect. I'm not getting what I'm hoping to get. And we kind of agreed with the director, that Laslo, that when we kind of try to verbalize what the scene should be, we totally agreed that yes, we want something. Yeah, we agreed. And what happened, I still get goosebumps even when I think about it. Basically, pretty much shot the whole film in chronological order. Mm-hmm. So towards the end of the shoot, we were about to shoot the last scene of the film, the scene that we talked about for such a long time.
Yeah.
And we had a first rehearsal with the actors per the script. So we just did what the script said. And I felt that it was not great. You know, the rehearsal was just, you know, it still didn't work for me. And Laslo looked at me and said, okay, I want everybody out of the set and I want you to stay. That was me. And he said, it's not working. And I said, I know. And he said, okay, we have 2 hours to shoot because the sun is setting. We need to get this now. What do I do? And then he said, and I told him, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I know what you're trying to do. I still don't have an answer. And he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And he basically told me a version of that scene, which we never, you know, a completely new version. And he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And I looked at him and I said, this is fucking perfect. So yeah, let's get everybody back. Let's rehearse this version and shoot, because again, we have an hour and a half. We need to get these shots.
So he just came up with an alternative right there on the spot.
He came up with, for me, which was the perfect solution to that scene, which we couldn't crack for 2 months. And under that tremendous amount of pressure,
yeah,
he just came up with that scene that is in the film now, which I love so much that I cannot tell you. And he just basically came up with the solution on the day, and we shot that, and that is in the film, and that's how the film ended. And I was like, and once we wrapped the day, and I was like, you know what just happened, right? It was divine intervention. It was crazy, beautiful, and really just an amazing experience. It was like, I don't know, 3 or 4 shots that we had to do, but everything made perfect sense, and it was like, you know, something out of a dream. I don't know. So the only reason I told you this story is because all that work that we put into it for months, basically, like paid off at that moment. It depends, obviously, on the director. I mean, Laslo is extremely prepared. Like, we have a shot list that is fine-tuned for months, you know, and he comes up with the shots, and we just go through them and discuss them and make subtle changes, and basically we shoot his shot list. That's what we did on Son of Saul. That's what we did on Sunset as well. But I work with another director. His name is Şon Darkin, and we never do shot lists. So we know what the scene is for the day, or the scenes are for the day. And we walk on the set and kind of try to feel it out, you know, spend a few minutes just to feel the space for that scene. You know, again, what is the scene about? You know, what are the dynamics between the characters? And we kind of let the actors try to, you know, inhabit that space, and we kind of look at it from different angles, and then we decide on an angle that would basically serves as a master. But most of the time, that is only what we shoot. You know, like, we don't do coverage. We don't even use the word coverage on set. It's like, that's the C word we don't use.
Yeah.
So yeah, we and then we come up with a way of I mean, if we can shoot the whole thing in one shot, then we will shoot the whole thing in one shot. If he feels that he needs an additional angle or a close-up or whatever, a detail, of course we're gonna do that. But we kind of find a place for the camera, or create a movement with the camera that would work for the whole scene. And again, most of the time, that is what the scene is gonna be. But we never shot list that. We kind of have a few tools we use, meaning a few like visual tools, like zooms, we use dolly, we use handheld, and we kind of combine these elements, and we can, you know, on the day we kind of. So how do you feel? Do you think it's a zoom, or do you think it's just static and it's just a lock off? And then Yeah, I think it's a zoom. Okay, let's put the zoom on, and then we look at it with the zoom, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, then we like, okay, no, it doesn't really work. Let's just put it on my shoulder, and I'm just gonna follow the whole thing from, handheld. You know what? Let's, instead of all this, let's just put the camera into the corner. And it might sound a little bit like wasting time. If you feel that you know the types of films you do, digital is the answer, shoot digital. If you feel that the types of projects you do, an iPhone is the best tool, shoot it on an iPhone. If you feel the GoPro is the best tool for you, I mean, I don't care. Like, if you create a film that is unique and has a huge impact, you can shoot it on VHS. I don't care, like, it doesn't matter. For me, watching a movie on the big screen that was shot on film and maybe even projected on film gives me an amazing amount of visual pleasure. I just love how it looks. I love how it feels. I love everything about it. So I do a lot of films that the stories take place in different time periods in the past. I feel that, again, film is great for that. I don't know. I just love how I shoot a close up on film and I watch it. It's, for me, it's like so much more beautiful than anything digital that it's difficult for me to get into this conversation. I'm very biased because I had the luxury, in film school, I was able to shoot film. I shot my first feature when I was 24 on 35. And I've been lucky enough to be working with directors who also love the way film looks. And most of the time, by the time I'm involved in a project, the fact that it's gonna be shot on film has been already decided. So, and I've been lucky enough to be working with producers who make it happen. So I don't know. I love it, and if you ask me, I would shoot everything on film. I mean, I shoot commercials, and most of them are digital. But the one commercial I have shot that won any award was actually shot on 35. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it makes sense. It's beautiful.
makes sense.
I might seem a little bit cocky, but to me, a film is made by these three people. Strangely, it's the director, it's the production designer, and the DP. I mean, obviously you need the script, and obviously you need the actors and all the other amazing people who are involved. But when I start a film, what I want usually, and I'm very needy in that sense, is that I really want to have the production designer next to me at all times, and I want the director. So it's like the three of us. It's like a little, I don't know, a little secret group of people figuring the film out. I cannot function without a production designer, and the production designer needs to understand what the director and myself want to create, and then the three of us can make it happen. I want the production designer to be involved in this conversation because I need to create that mood, and the only way I can create that mood is if I'm getting a set or a location that allows me to do this. So if the idea is that it's if the location we will have is wide box lit by fluorescent lights and no windows, that's going to be an issue. But if the production designer understands what the idea is for that scene, what is the emotion of that scene, then he or she is going to come up with, oh, okay, I have this amazing location. The walls are, I don't know, like really dark paints, and we have this amazing window, and we have these dark curtains, but the sun at 4 p.m. shines. I think these three people are key when prepping the film and figuring these things out.
As a director of photography, aside from the purpose of a scene or the director's intentions, do you also feel obligated to ask the meanings of metaphors in the script, like to communicate, you know, how you know, intensely do you sort of dig into the script?
As deep as I'm allowed, basically. It's not my obligation. I don't know. It's my job. You know, it's not like something that is the job of the cinematographer. How do you know where to put the camera unless you understand what you're shooting? How do you know how to light something if you don't understand the ideas behind that scene? So maybe you're a genius and you read the script once and you understand everything. I don't believe in that. Again, because scripts are scripts and they are not literature. I think that is your job, is to make sure you understand everything, and then your next job is to translate those ideas into images and offer up ideas to the director, as many as he or she needs, you know. And if all of your ideas are thrown into the trash, then come back the next day and offer up 200 more ideas until you feel that the director is satisfied and happy to shoot those ideas. So that is the job. It's not just verbalizing them, but you then also have to create them. So it's like a two-layered problem. First, you have to understand. To understand, you have to verbalize them, but then you also have to create them. And so many ways to get lost. So you use every tool you can, from music to recipes to paintings to photography to obviously other movies, anything you can, and it's up to you. You know, maybe it's a melody that will give you that understanding of what the scene needs to be. Like most of the time, I find them limiting because it's somebody else's idea, or you can say it's going to be a mid-shot of him in front of this building. I know what a mid-shot is. I don't need to draw that. I know what the location is. I just feel that it just gives me this weird, strange thing that I can't escape, and I want to escape everything. I want to be able to go there and think freely and not somebody else's, I don't want to follow somebody else's vision or even my own drawings months later. It's obviously a joke. The only thing that I want to say about this, I think, is that there is this method that is considered to be professional. You have a scene, you do a master, and then you do a mid shot, and then you do a reverse, and then you do a close up, and then you do another close up, and you do an over the shoulder and over the shoulder. That's almost like it's almost like this. This is the method. This is how it's done.
Yes.
And I just don't believe in that thing, because I feel that every film, every film should have its own language, and maybe there's a scene that you're actually gonna do with a wide shot and two mids and then two close-ups and then two overs, but you do that because that you feel that is the best way to do that. But maybe there's another scene that all it needs is a wide shot and have, like a wobbly wide shot, and you see the person because that is the image that's going to give you that feeling. And then you're not going to go in and do a close up and then, no, I mean, you make these decisions not because that is the way it should be done. You make these decisions, meaning what are the shots you're going to do, based on what you feel is the right thing to do.
As choosing shooting a coverage is, as a, let's say, plan, as an intention is bad. Also saying yourself that I cannot break down the scene is also a superficial decision. It's, as you said, it's about understanding how you see that film and where you want to put. I mean, putting a camera in a scene is an extremely important decision, and you want to be careful with that because you are deciding from which angle and from which distance the audience will watch and perceive a certain scene and emotion. And so the great advice, I think, for beginning, like for aspiring filmmakers and for students, would be that, of course, learn the coverage, of course, understand how is it like to divide the scene and what happens when it comes back together as a scene in the editing room. But
and then forget it.
Yes, and it's not a rule, and not doing it is also not a rule either. It's about like you deciding how to tell a story.
If you are interested in cinema, I think that sooner or later you're going to find yourself watching movies. For example, if you start watching movies that are 100 years old, you realize the visual sophistication those movies had, the amazing visual ideas those movies from the 20s, you know, we're talking about 1920s.
Yeah.
And you watch the movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and you realize how rich this language is and how much is not about the wide shot and the mid shot and the reverse and the close-up. You know, you look at the Russian, you look, whatever, you know, you get anything, and you realize the amazing ingenuity of these filmmakers and how amazing ideas they had. And you know, I can give you a million examples, but you obviously know, you know, you watch classics and you understand why they are still around. You know, why, you know, Citizen Kane is still, still referred to. I mean, Citizen Kane, I don't think has a single sequence that is like wide shot, reverse, close up. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like if you think about the images that you have in your mind, every single frame of the movie is, I mean, just mind blowing. So yeah, I mean that is what you want, I guess. I'm not sure if it happened. Let's play with this idea. If the director would tell me that he has this very strong idea, then there's no question. I mean, that is what we're gonna do. It's the director's film, no matter what. At the end of the day, his name is on it, or her name is on it. My job, again, is to serve his vision or her vision. So even if I would take my time to understand again on the day of where is this idea coming from, and what is the meaning, and what is, you know, again, what is the thought behind it, and you know, really quickly, and then do it. I mean, there's no, and then of course you can argue, but I mean, usually you want to have these conversations happen before the shoot day. You don't want to waste your time, you know, talking about ideas on the day. That's just not a very smart way to utilize your time and resources. So you know, again, the short answer is you are there for the director, and then that's the short answer. As you said, it's ridiculous. It doesn't. It's yeah. I mean, can a chef be a man or a woman? Can an astronaut be a man or what are we talking about? You know, it's like I again, like it's a question not even worth. If you want to study cinematography, if you want to become a cinematographer, do it. I mean, there's no other thing to talk about. Like, if it's too heavy, hire an operator. You know, so many DPs work with an operator. You know, cinematography is not about moving heavy equipment around. That is called trucking.
I think it would be so great for us to, because you shared with us a very special video clip from the backstage of Son of Saul.
Set, fish, action!
Der ist von meinem Klemmer. Den nehme ich mit.
Ordnung!
Tempo, zack, zack. Avram! Avram! Zack, 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 hopp!
Megtaláltad a göröget.
Aufrichten! Schützen! Auf!
Nyolc 92. Jawohl! B9304. Jawohl! 9431. Jawohl! 5444. Jawohl! 865. Jawohl! 6572.
Jawohl!
Halt! Stehen bleiben! So, komm hin! Schneller, blöde Hunde! Heftig! Was ist das?
Hol van 19/2, harmadszor.
Set és tessék!
Was ist der Anlass Ihres Besuches, wenn ich fragen darf? Putze. Putze. Oj, 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 putze! Putze! Oj, 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 oj! Kannst wie stehen. Ganz in der guten alten Zeit. Mazel tov.
Laslo and I spent pretty much 5 years on and off talking about the film. And we were talking a lot about what we didn't want this film to be. That was our first starting point. Like, what are the things that we want to avoid, basically? And we came up with a really, really long list of things we didn't want to do. One of the things was actually, funny enough, handheld was on that list. we originally said that we didn't want this film to be handheld, but that changed, and I can tell you how it changed. But the idea was that the camera sees and goes only to the places that the lead character goes to and the lead character sees. So basically, one of the first ideas was that the camera always stays with the main character. That was a very, very important thing, and that was the top priority. How can we maintain pretty much a fixed distance between the lens? At the end, we reached the solution that the only way we can do this is handheld, is that First, we were talking about shooting this film with Steadicam, early version, like an ancient version of the Steadicam that is imperfect and that is technically flawed. That was the idea, to do something that is not as fluid, not as agile as a modern Steadicam. And we ended up talking to Garrett Brown, who's the inventor of the Steadicam, and we tried to explain to him what we are after, and we also tried to explain to him what our problems were with the modern Steadicam. Originally, we were talking about not using handheld, and the reason we talked about not using handheld was we felt that it's like this handheld was a tool. We felt it was overused. We felt that we've seen it so many times, and if it's a dramatic scene, the filmmakers switch to handheld just to create tension, and that's not what we wanted at all. I mean, I have been asked many times from colleagues who was my Steadicam operator on this film, and I said every single shot was handheld. There were no Steadicam in this film. So that I take that as a compliment, because
yeah, for sure.
The whole idea was to go against the shaky handheld, and the only reason we went handheld is because we needed that intimacy between the character and the camera to be as wholesome as possible. So if the actor moves, the camera had to move immediately. So that was a great way to. I think that was a great tool to use, and to be honest, it was an amazing thing to do, like to operate.
I caught myself on a thought that watching, for example, student films, the very first things that I've ever done, I was like, oh, this is like so obviously, like the thing that you get. This is like so superficial, or this is like there's so much, so much, like, well, you know what I'm talking about, like this feel that you get when you the cringe that you get like years later watching your student.
Yeah. However, but I think sorry, finish your sentence. Sorry.
Yeah, there is this however that I was gonna say that there is always like a scene or even a shot or even like something that you're like, wow, like this was like really good for for an 18-year-old, like, and you sort of like pat yourself on the shoulder and you're like, of course, like this is a student film and it's like, crappy and, and it's, and there is like so much, pathos about this. You're like, oh, you're trying to imitate Tarkovsky and like all that stuff. But then there's like this little detail. You're like, wow, like, it's like a seed that can grow into something else.
And I wanted to basically follow up on that same thing, because I feel that, of course, when you're starting out, there's a lot of imperfection in the craft. You don't know how to pan properly. You don't know how to light. You don't know most of this. And I don't think that's important, because that is something you learn. But I think what you're looking for is actually honest ideas, like ideas that are, again, unique to you as a person, as a filmmaker. And if you find something that is actually honest, and it's not like a ripoff of a Tarantino movie, or, like it's actually something that happened to you, it's actually a thought that you were thinking, it's actually an idea that you were thinking about, and then you recognize those, then you have value there, I think. So I guess for me, a student film is a student film, and I obviously made my own shitty student films back in the day. But I think what I mean is, what you're looking for is some original idea, unique, something that is unique. Yeah, exactly. And then suddenly that becomes valuable. And then, maybe it's lit horribly or the operating is horrible, but there is something which has value. And then if you have talent and if you're working hard enough, then you learn all the ways to form those original ideas into proper films. as a DOP, there is endless way to educate yourself. I think, like with the internet, it's endless. First of all, you watch movies. I mean, that's you know, watch 2-3 movies a day for 10 years. You're gonna pretty much, you know, be familiar with 10% of the important movies. And then, you know, one really amazing method is to find a master and basically be an intern or a trainee and learn like that. That has been my mantra in a way, which is like, if there is a will, there is a way. So if you want to be a filmmaker, if you truly want to be a filmmaker, you'll find a way. You know, you're gonna sell your father's used car and use that money to buy your first camera and then shoot your first short film that's gonna go to a festival, and suddenly you find yourself that you will have enough support to do your second film, and in 3 years you will be shooting first feature. If that is really what you want, there are programs, there are grants, there are, you know, international communities that you can join. You can upload your films, and, you know, like, I think again with the internet, it is becoming extremely, you know, so much more easy. Like you have these labs for scripts, amazing people help you with their ideas and with their connections. So, I mean, there's so many ways to go ahead and become a filmmaker. You know, these festivals have, you know, like, there are endless possibilities, I feel.
How would you, okay, the question is that, did it harm, like, does it in some way harm your artistic
Great question.
vision, and how do you defend yourself from that, and how do you sort of, you know, find maybe a way of, like, you know, earning money, or were you? Of course, probably now it's not a question for you right now, but, you know, back in the days, how were you managing this way to sort of keep your artistic
sharpness?
Yeah.
Because obviously it's quite different, like doing commercial work where, like, even grading it is different. Like, it's like super saturated, and like everything has to be like super.
It's a different aesthetic.
It's a different aesthetic, and we often have this argument.
I can't really talk about myself because I don't have that objectivity. I can only hope and pray that I'm not affected in any ways that are bad, or, you know, that I'm hoping that I'm not being compromised. I actually do enjoy shooting commercials, to be honest. I personally don't feel the negative effects, but I have to say that I have seen a lot of, I mean, not a lot, but some of my colleagues to completely deviate. You know, they started somewhere and they were doing a really exciting work, and then they started to do commercials, and this, you know, slowly their work just suffered, and they became this generic, uninteresting, uninspired thing that I felt that it's just not working anymore, you know. I can only hope, and I pray that I'm not getting any of the negative effects, and I honestly don't have an answer. I mean, I think it's a danger. It can be a danger. I don't think I am personally. Somehow I feel that I'm avoiding this. You know, I'm working with people that I admire. I, you know, try to be selective with the work I do, very much so. But I also know that you know, doing a feature film that you don't believe in, with a filmmaker that you don't respect, for 40 days it can be much worse than shooting 3 commercials.
Fantastic.
I shot a commercial in Baku, funny enough.
Really?
What?
Yeah. I've been there. I shot for a perfume or something like that in the Zaha Hadid building.
So you was it Hugo Boss?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So you were the DP of Hugo Boss commercial.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing.
How about that?
I thought I'm gonna just drop that in for the
I love that how after Son of Saul and Oskar and Kann, we're like, is it you who shot Hugo Boss?
There you go. There you go.
The world is my
that is what's paying the bills.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course. Of course. Skills pay the bills.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Arbeit! Arbeit! Schneller!
Roll sound.
Sound speed!
43/1 másodszor.
Jó. Set!
And action.
Get los, ey!
Sonderkommando, Sie haben sie verbrennt.
Go!